Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Puk van Dijk. I'm happy to be your host this evening. Welcome here in Pakhuis de Zwijger. First of all, you're all heroes because you went through the rain to be here tonight. I hope it wasn't too bad. It's a great evening to talk about graphic design, especially when it's raining. I don't know, it makes it even better. You're here tonight on a program called It's All Graphic. So this program is a cooperation between Pakhuis de Zwijger and the Wim Krauwel Institute. And this time we've partnered up with not only, of course, Wim Krauwel, but also with the festival Graphic Matters. And tonight is all about data visualization. We're going to talk about, we're going to look at data visualization throughout different perspectives and views with our guests tonight. But for me, it's always nice to have a little check on the audience to start off with. Just really quickly checking who's here with us tonight. Are there any people here that do not see themselves as designers? Raise your hand. Okay. And are there here any people that identify themselves as journalists? 2, 3 people. Okay. And finally, who here has to work or works with data visualization almost daily, on a daily basis? Okay. All right. All right, thanks. Good. So data visualization, it basically helps us in our daily life. It's a very effective way to explain complicated facts, to guide us also through a world full of information, sometimes disturbing or confusing, statistics, numbers, etc. But the way it is designed, so the way it has been visualized, this data, is maybe, well, I would say as important, maybe more important than the data itself. And things can also go quite wrong in visualizing this data. I mean, I just checked some things on the internet and look what I came up with. Let it sink in. What's wrong with this image? A lot. There's a lot wrong with this image. But just to show you how the visualization of data can go completely wrong. And also you can kind of guess how it can even bring or produce fake news in the world. Anyway, I am not going to talk about data visualization. There are 5 guests here tonight that are going to give these different views and perspectives on what it is. Some of them, there will be time after their talk for some questions, some of them not. I will let you know, right? So I'll guide you through that. We're going to start with our first guest. He is someone who knows exactly how graphic design can reinforce data. His name is Dennis Elbers, and he's the founder of Graphic Matters, the festival I just spoke of, in Breda, an international festival which is all about graphic design. He will give us an introduction to information design, basically, and then he will share his vision on data visualization that he incorporates in the festival, but also in his daily work as a graphic designer and a curator. So give a warm applause for Dennis Elbers.
Thank you. Leuk zaaltje. Sorry, just have to do this quickly. But I can put on a first slide. There we go, water. And you know what really fascinates me about water? While I'm pouring it, because I need it badly now. So, I have this fascination with water, and it's because it's everywhere. You know, it's everywhere in our surroundings. Even our bodies are filled with it. We don't drink, we die. It really affects us all. But what strikes me is we hardly discuss water. I can't remember that I ever had a discussion with friends about water, a good discussion. And when water hits the news, it's mainly because of catastrophe. You know, there's floods, there's heavy rain, like tonight maybe, or there's drought. Also, the absence of water is a reason to write about it. And in a way, I think it's just like graphic design. Graphic design, you know, it's everywhere around us. Our life depends on it. Not sure about you, but my friends don't really care about it. And you know, when you read about graphic design in the press, it's because someone made a ridiculously expensive logo and nobody likes it. You know, you recognize this story, or I don't know. But that's sort of the kind of press we get with graphic design. So that's why I'm on a mission with this biannual festival called Graphic Matters, and we try to explain why the omnipresent, ordinary design is very special. And people can experience that in Breda. And I have a tip for some of the designers in this room. If you have trouble explaining to your family, you know, at these family parties, and everyone asks you, what do you do for a living? And if you have difficulty trying to explain, just take them to Breda and you can show him what it's all about.
In the complicated world of today, information is key for a whole bunch of important issues. Think about critical journalism, a sustainable world, balanced politics, personal health and privacy. Graphic designers have the unique ability to create order out of chaos, provide clarity in complex matters, instigate empathy, and can give insight in the blink of an eye. But most of all, graphic designers tell stories that matter.
Yeah, so this is our intro theme for this year's festival. At the moment, Breda kind of looks like this. We really enjoy presenting in public space. I think graphic design functions best when there's a context, so that's why we try to get away from the white cube and present in public. We do have some indoor exhibitions. They kind of look like this. There's workshops, masterclasses, lectures, talk shows, and it's only 1 hour from where we are now. Even this guy found us last Friday, and he even said some really kind words.
I thought it was excellent.
You know, that's all we need. So, but yeah, back to the beginning, to this big wave. A tidal wave, and it's a small step to another wave that's about to hit us, or even is hitting us. And this graph shows the amount of data that's being stored at the moment, and you can see this number is increasing really fast. Like every 2 years, the amount of data we store on this planet is doubling. But to make sense of these data, we need to visualize it. You know, we don't need the numbers, but we need something to process and understand, and it's mostly imagery, because our brain is designed to understand these complex structures and to create information from data, from patterns, from visuals. And since anyone can now access data, it's no longer for nerds. We can, you know, try and play with it, and also experience that it can be very subjective, it can be manipulative, it can have a variety of forms, and it doesn't always have to be true. It's also said that data is the new oil. Like our economy is already depending a lot on data, and it will dominate in a few years' time. Is this really new? Not really. Like 100 years ago, people were experiencing almost a similar thing to what we are today. The amount of information they had to process on a daily basis was increasing very fast. Radio came in, so people were sitting down in their homes with the family listening to the radio. There were far more newspapers than there are now. They were all displayed on the streets for selling the front pages. So processing information was a challenge back then. And for instance, this visual shows isotype, devised by an economist from Vienna. Because back then, you have to remind, there were no graphic designers. But there was a need for imagery. the guy who initiated this, Otto Neurath, together with Gert and Marie Neurath, developed this system because they the system could express any type of statistics. You can clearly see these icons are still out there today, and they tried to create this sort of visual Esperanto in order to make everyone understand what was going on in the world, even the illiterate. However, they kind of forgot about the emotional connection people need to imagery. So every subject was displayed in the same manner. Around the same time, there was this doctor in Germany, and he was writing a lot for magazines about health, but he was mainly aiming at doctors, while he thought people need to understand their bodies. So how can you explain the human body to an audience that isn't aware of their organs, of their inner body, or whatsoever? So he came up with the clever metaphor of displaying the body as a factory. As many people were working in factories back then, he worked as a sort of art director avant la lettre and was telling about 3 illustrators to create such an image, and they make thousands of it. These books were like very, very popular until the Nazis burned them. And his motto was, maybe it's not 100% accurate, but it's 100% clear. And it was, it was so popular. But our brain is far more advanced than we might think, and we can even process very abstract images, as proven by this London tube map, which was created by an electrician. So we had an economist, a doctor, and an electrician in this room designing very particular design icons. And he was inspired by electrical diagrams. And he had trouble finding his way in the London Underground, but making electricity diagram out of the underground, he really managed to find his way, and he wasn't the only one. Many people understood this map, and it's really funny because all the stations are at the same distance, the lines are straight. Of course, this is not what it is in real, but anyone could read it, and it was a really big leap back then. Today, information graphics maybe get more complicated. Maybe not by the design, but more likely by our daily rush. We don't really take the time to look at these images anymore. We think images can make us understand stuff more quickly. I hope when you encounter some information graphic, you wonder, how do I read this? It's when you come across a chart, a diagram, a map, a manual, ask yourself. And you can see these abstractions, they are based on visual languages. And like any language, it takes some effort to learn and to read and to understand it. So I think no visual is worth 1,000 words if you don't know how to read it. So my first advice is to trust your first impression. This sets the frame. What is it about? What's the bigger picture? Does it matter to me? Is there a starting point, a structure, a logic, a story? Is it about space, time, relationships, flows, ranking, magnitude? How long does it take me to understand? Is it worth to put in this time? And if the image and the topics get you, let your eyes wander, and if that first impression excites you, move on. So you can start reading, and if well done, the visualization will provide you with information, annotations, labels, legends, anything you need to start reading. And let's be honest, sometimes visuals can also puzzle you, and maybe this is not your problem, but the image. And it takes some little effort, but it's really fun to begin. So good visualizations, they come with instructions and clear legends on colors, on shapes, etc. But also explanation what it means and how things relate. And with that at hand, you should be able to understand. But visualizations are often used in many different contexts, and it makes sense to understand what the context is early on. Who created the visual? What's the message, the purpose, the intention? What's the data set behind it? Where and when was it created? If you don't trust the image, that's something you should take in consideration. So every medium has a message, and every story has an author. And some are great and unique storytellers, but others can be spin doctors of manipulated fake news. So, be informed of what you're looking at, and if things are missing, try to find clues. But when you're done, you can really step back, ask yourself, did I really get what this was about? And if you like the journey, if you love the learning, then share it. Share it with others, and enjoy the ride, also tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis. There's no time for questions for Dennis, sadly. There will be for our next guest, so this is a heads up. Our next guest is Ben Prins, who works as a designer at NOS op 3. And he will talk about basically the vision of the NOS on the use of data visualization and infographics in journalism and news releases. And he will also share how this vision fits in a broader context of the Dutch media. So give it up for Ben Prins.
Good evening, everybody. Let me start with some water. Let's make a tradition out of this. Okay. NOS. Who knows NOS here? Okay, nice. Who knows NOS op 3? Could be better. Maybe after tonight. Well, I'm Ben Prins and I am a designer at NOS op 3. And we have a target audience for people in their 20s. And we try to add some extra to the news NOS is already telling. 12 years ago, we started as a TV show. We were broadcasted on NPO 3. That's why we are called NOS op 3. And the show was about 10 minutes and it was at 11 o'clock at night. And, nobody was watching. Especially not our target audience. 5 years ago, we were cancelled. And we got the chance to explore online. We got the same budget, the same people, and all our efforts went for online storytelling. And we realized that we had to bring stories to the audience where they are at. So on Facebook, which was quite popular at the time, on our site and on our app, TV was not the right media for our target audiences. And we have to see what kind of interests them. Technology, politics, education, that kind of stuff. When we were on television, we were really reporting the news that interested our target audience. And when we went online, we switched from reporting to adding another layer, to explaining the news, to give context, to let our audience form an opinion, to let them see other sides of the story. So we kind of switched and we evaluated as a show. And you can find us at YouTube. Maybe you already know. I think we have a lot of more subscribers after tonight, right? And Instagram, those are our main channels. because the audience is there. So that's why we're there. But we still have our Facebook page, and especially our Goed Verhaal. It's a video we make each week about something nice or people who are trying to let the world be a better place. So a positive kind of news, and we do that on Facebook. We have Twitter, and of course our own site and app. Okay, what do we make? What kind of stories? We do make explainers. And we make explainers with a host. So the host is telling you the story. So what he's the lead. He leads you through the story, and our graphics as designers, we try to make graphics that are supporting him and his story. We always also make explainers which are full screen animations, and we always try to find a nice metaphor, not really get into cliches, but really find a nice metaphor which explains and catches the atmosphere of the story. And we make these in sometimes less than a week. Well, most of the time in a week. And we are already involved in the start of the process. So when the journalistic question is asked, we are already involved, and we are thinking of how we can visualize this story. Okay, explainers. We also do research stories, because the explainers are really reacting on the news, what's now in the news, and what can we tell about it, what can we explain about it. We also make research videos, and those are really stories that hadn't been told already. So we just dive in something that we think is interesting for our audience. And we really put a lot of effort, about 3 weeks in such a story, maybe sometimes longer when it needs it. And as a graphic designer, we are responsible for, giving the story his form, a form in which typography and data visualizations and colors and forms are all united to bring the story, give it a good vibe, just one vibe in which the whole story can be told. For example, this one, it's about nail studios. Next, yeah. This was a story about people working at those nail studios, and it's kind of a tragic story. And the feel of those nail studios, the neon and the atmosphere where it was filmed, kind of dark. It was kind of a dark world we were telling about. That's what we add to this story. This was a part where we explained the whole journey of someone from Vietnam to Holland, to how they got here. This is kind of fast forward, but that's how we try to get this story going and make it tell it as one package, actually. What do we do more? I have to warn you, this one is going quite fast. We make all kinds of infographics on Instagram. And well, they differ from data visualizations to illustrations. And well, we try to find stories in sliders, so you can slide through them. Yes. Yeah, let's go. Here we are. So you can only see that one picture, and you can slide through the whole story. And sometimes it's more like an illustration. So how does it look? How does it feel? How it leads you through. And sometimes it really is a data visualization. This one is about the waiting time for mental health. And all these dots are really representing what how many people are waiting for this kind of health care. Maybe some more examples. This is a story where illustration was really important. This is about I wrote it down. It's called the tardigrades. Does anybody know what this is? No. It's a little beast, and it's the DNA tells in interesting stories, and that's why we got it and told the story of this living on the moon. And it's called a beerbeestje in Dutch, and you don't have any clue how this thing looks, so you really want to see it, right? Well, this is a slider too, so you can slide through the story, and you know we create. Every slider is like a new world we create for the story, and it gives you all kinds of information. It's kind of a cute thing, right? Sometimes illustration is not the thing that's needed. Sometimes it's animation, telling us about that we're getting older and older. So we add a little animation to the image, not for you to slide through, but just let it play so you can see how it evaluated through time from 1960 to now. And sometimes only one image tells the story. Who run the world? Not girls. This is how many women and how many men are represented at the table where people are discussing. Okay. Next. Sometimes you have to push. We make interactive stories. For example, this one. This one is about depression and how it feels to have a depression. And you know, we not only wanted to tell the stories about people who have a depression, but we want you to experience it. For example, all those to-do lists that are coming up to you and give you a feeling of, I just can't manage this. Another example is this one. You have a depression modus. This is just a normal day, a normal day life. And it's like that when the depression mode is not working, but when it's on, you hear the feelings of someone who has a depression. So just you can imagine how that feels. Our interactives are adding an extra layer of how things feel and how things. It's like an experience. You know, you just need something to feel what we're telling. This one is about in the Northern Sea, all the sounds that are made. You see it different, and you hear the sounds actually, and you can scroll through, and you can play little games like looking for the fish, because a lot of fish are using their sonar, and because of all the different sounds, they just can find the fish, and that's what we are trying to let people feel right here, just by clicking and finding the fish. We as designers are always looking for use cues. So how can you make the user understand what you want him to do in this experience? And we always try to create, and that's what we do with all our stories, to make a visual language that addresses to the story, which gives it the feel of the story. Another interactive we made is this one. Kijk je achter je scherm. And this one was more like a tool. It was not really. It was more like part of a bigger story. We were telling a story about our mobile phones, who are in our closet, our old mobile phones, and there are a lot of raw materials in there, and we don't recycle them. They're just laying there, and that's the story we told in our research video. And with this tool, we wanted to let the readers see what's in their phone just by scrolling and seeing what's in there. For example, the battery, there's copper and lithium and the camera, and you can just click on it when you want to have more information. Where is it from? It's just a simple tool to add a new experience to a whole bigger story. That's it. Okay. A question for me, is visualizing the most important part of my job? Well, I think it's a very important part, but I think the answer is no. I think understanding the story that you're telling is much more interesting, not only for me, but also for the readers, that they really get what the story is about. 2 examples. First one, hip size 90. This was a data-driven project. My colleague Lars, he's here, he scraped with a lot of others data about 1,000 female models. And we found that a lot of those models have hip size 90. Well, it is like this, maybe thinner. Well, it's quite thin. So it was quite shocking for us to see. And that could tell the story, just just show those data. But, you know, it's more of a story when it's personal. And that data was not personal enough to tell the story, to have enough impact. So we looked for female models who could tell the story about hip size 90 and all their colleagues. And then we made this video in which the data is there, but the most important part of the story is the story of the female model.
Centimeter. Dat is de heupmaat.
Can we maybe
van
put up the sound a bit? I'm sorry, it's in Dutch.
Dit.
Maar dit is niet veel, hè? Maar als je erin past, is het een leven vol glitter, glamour, shine op de catwalk en fotoshoots over de hele wereld.
Ja, een prachtig leventje en de droom van heel veel jonge meiden.
Ja, maar Emiel ook nog wel echt vaak best wel een nachtmerrie.
Ja, en dat blijkt wel uit een data-analyse die we hebben gedaan over de heupmaten.
En uit gesprekken die we voerden met tientallen modellen.
Ik wilde zo graag model worden dat ik er alles aan deed om zo dun te zijn.
En dat weten we omdat de modellenbureaus de maten van de modellen op hun websites hebben staan. Bij 25 modellenbureaus hebben we van meer dan 1000 modellen de heupmaten verzameld. En dat ziet er dan zo uit. Dat zijn de heupmaten in centimeters en dat zijn de modellen. En dat eenzame bolletje hier, dat is Jill, een van de weinige curvy modellen. Want wat je ziet is dat verreweg de meeste modellen 90 centimeter zijn of dunner.
In de winkel betekent dat voor mij dat ik maat 38 heb. En samen met maat 40 is dat de maat die het meest voorkomt onder 20ers. Dit zijn de modellen die normale maat hebben. En dit is de rest. Ongeveer de helft heeft maat 34, dus ongeveer die 90 centimeter. En een kwart is zelfs nog dunner.
So this is where we present the facts. And then the story comes of our model, who was a model actually and was way too thin and now has more of a normal size, but still has trouble standing on the weegschaal. the thing, whatever. Let's go. Next one. Grevelingenmeer, Lake Grevelingen. Sounds very international, doesn't it? This was a story I think we published about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you know what we discovered? There is a death zone here in Holland, in our water. I don't know if you knew that. A lot of people in our audience didn't know. I didn't know. And it sounded very spooky. A death zone is a zone in the water where it's hard to live for plants and for animals. And you know, we could tell the story by just getting the data and, well, you know, compare them. Just comparing the data. Well, more lives there, a lot of more lives there. Well, that's how you could do that. But would that have enough impact? For us, it wouldn't. So, we chose to dive in. we went to the Grevelingenmeer and to the Oosterschelde, which is a very healthy water. And you just can dive at 15 meters. And this is the very healthy part, which is quite colorful. Of course, it's sandy. And this is the Grevelingenmeer. No life, just sand. Very gray colors. And this image already tells the story and tells the difference. And there are some titles who are telling you what's in there. Even the animals have brighter colors in the more healthy waters. And that's what you discover when you just get into this interactive. Yeah, that was adding up an experience. I think this was it was the most watched interactive of everything we made. We make an interactive every 2 weeks, so it's quite a hard job, but we still managed to do that. And that's it. So, what did we learn? What did I learn? Visualization plays a big role in what we do, and but is visualization always the best way to tell the story? Getting some footage is also a way to visualize something, but does a data visualization always tell the story? I don't know. Let's always start with the story, because that defines the way we visualize. And that's how we all work, or we try to work at NOS. And we search for that best way to visualize in our framework. So the framework is, we're making an explainer, we're making an interactive, we're making an infographic on Instagram. And that's how we try to tell the best stories. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Ben, for this story. As I said just before you went on with your story, there is some time for questions for Ben on the way he works, the way NOS op 3 works. If you guys have any questions, raise your hand. Because, yeah, there's one right there.
Now I'm finally getting the water.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, how do you get the briefing, or how do you,
the briefing of how the story starts?
Yeah, how do you get an
we actually start with a big meeting every Monday, and that's how we divide the different stories on our frameworks. So we're making an explainer each week. We make an interactive every 2 weeks, a research video every 2 weeks. So we're just looking for topics, and sometimes a video about the hip size actually made another topic for us, because a lot of people were asking questions about, why do those model agencies choose those models? Why do they still get that thing of hip size 90 very important? And that's what we did for a follow-up story. So that's how we get our topics. And then we try to find a way to get that told as good as possible.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering what kind of programs or technique are your go-to programs?
Yeah. Well, I think we use almost the whole Adobe Creative Cloud. And we use XD. It's quite new for us for our interactives. That's where we do the design. And from XD, our developer, we have a developer on our news floor, and he gets the design from there in his own programming program. And we use Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects. That's it.
Yeah, because the technique I see used is quite spectacular, and I thought all the work you showed was very great. But sometimes you can go so far as a graphic designer with technique, but the technique is very defining everything I see also. Do you work together in teams?
Yes, and there is the thing of time. So what the technique can do for us is very important, and it defines how good we are with the technique, defines how much effort we can put in a video. Is that answering your question?
Any other questions? Yeah.
And hello.
Hi.
And when it comes to editorial decisions, like the journalist team, how does that work? Do you have like this traditional newsroom where you get everything together, and how many of you are?
Yeah, we are in a traditional newsroom. We call it the news floor. It's like crowded with all kind of people. And when I started 6 years ago at NOS op 3, there was only one graphic designer sitting at the desk of the rest of the journalists. The rest was in some kind of place where it was dark and not really awesome. No, we started to have graphic designers on the floor because they are just as important to tell the story as the journalists are. And that was quite new actually 6 years ago. But it felt very natural for me because, it was my internship there, so just see what happens. And, the team is, I think, 20 people every day, and we work in some teams. So there's a team for the research video, always a graphic designer involved. There's a team for the explainer, always a graphic designer involved. All kinds of different designers. And we all have our own specialties. I'm more of an animator, Lars is more of a data journalist, and we learn from each other. So it's quite a nice space.
I have one more question here.
Thank you for sharing the work. It was really nice seeing it.
Thanks.
What I'm wondering is, if I hear data, I feel like it's something quite neutral. It's something that is to be interpreted by the person viewing it. And at the same time, the story you tell is already like maybe pushing the viewer into forming an opinion, maybe? Like where do you draw the line as a news outlet being kind of having to just provide neutral information, but also steering the viewer into forming an opinion through the way you do it?
Well, the luxury we have as NOS op 3 is that the clear news, the news fact, is already told by the big NOS online, on Facebook and on TV. So we grab that to add an extra layer for you to form an opinion, or for you to experience it, or to get to know the topic. And that's a luxury we have. So we always try to add something extra, or to ask the question our audience would ask, just to find for them what's in it for them. So we are not really drawing a line. We always have to tell different sides of the story, not just one side, of course. But it's kind of nice for us just that the big brother is already telling the facts.
All right, that's it for questions. Ben, thank you very much. You're going to rush out of here.
I'm going to rush out of here.
Another program to host in a minute. So thank you for being here. Give him a warm applause.
Thank you. And if you have more questions, my colleagues are here. They are waving right now.
Yes.
They're not waving. But they can also answer your questions. Thank you very much.
For me, it's now my task to introduce the next guest. He is Gert Franke from Klever Franke. And he will give us an insight into the future of data visualization. See it as kind of a futuristic view on what's to come or might come, what lies ahead of us. Am I a bit right, Gert? Yeah? Oh, let me give you your mic. There you go. Give him a warm applause. Thank you.
So, let's see. Doesn't seem to work. Yes? Now it does. Hey, thanks for the kind introduction, Puck. I think we are gathered here today to talk about data visualization with some journalists, as we saw, some designers, perhaps some engineers, etc. And what I would like to do is show you today how I think the future, not so much of just data visualization will look like, but information visualization or information design, as I named it. Therefore, I will show you a little bit of my work, and I will pitch to you a vision of what I think our profession will soon be. And not just for designers, I think that will also be for journalists, perhaps, and for developers. But first, a little bit more about me. I'm a co-founder and also still designer at Franke, and we connect people to data and technology. That's what we do from 3 studios around the world with a team of around 35 people for all kinds of brands, including Google, Cisco, and here. But as I said, I will talk about the future of information design. And of course, what's always good to, if you're going to look to the future, is take a step back and look to the history. And therefore, I will show you this magazine from 1979. And that showed us how we would live in the 21st century. And what I thought was mesmerizing is this view of our future living room back then in 1979. And what you already can see is that we have huge, very flat televisions that are perhaps even in 3D because we can, oh, sorry, I have to point here. We already can order stuff via some kind of computer, some kind of, perhaps this is the first design of a web shop. And all kinds of, and the telephone already had a camera in there, so we could already do some FaceTime, they predicted. And what I think is funny about this picture is that it's now 2019, and that already, say, roughly 40 years ago, they were able to quite closely predict how our future will look like. So this is for me just to prove you that the vision I will present to you today will be true, so please bear with me. But first, I will dive into a little bit more where we are standing today. Because if we look to information design and the current state, I think we can say that these days information is all around us. It's continuously everywhere. And it's also taking all kinds of shapes. Just like Ben already said, we are now consuming not just via television news, not just via newspaper, but it's on Facebook, websites, apps, etc. But not just there, we can also, if we commute, we can see interactive screens in train stations, and these days we even have these new hip foldable screens that I think will be very awesome, because probably we eventually will fold out again a screen like we used to fold out a newspaper in the morning when we wanted to read some news. But not just the way we present the information is changing and how we see it, also the way we gather information is changing. Nowadays, cities are becoming smart, homes becoming smart, mobility is becoming smart, and basically that means that everywhere you can find sensors that are collecting data and are continuously informing about how our home's doing, how our how our cities are doing, etc., etc. And I think this is extremely interesting because this offers us a tremendous amount of opportunities for us as designers to design for. And just to show you a few things of where it even went to is that we these days can, by a simple gene analysis that you can do at home, we can predict who your ancestors are and where you really came from. But not just where you came from, but we can also sense data these days even when you're pregnant. You can continuously keep track of how well your newborn is doing or yet to be born is doing. So we are even think about more and more creative ways to collect data. So is also the Chinese government, like they do with all kinds of camera techniques, making sure you follow the law. And if not, you will automatically get a fine or even get arrested. And you might think this is very far away, like in China. Unfortunately, we have this. That's basically doing the same thing, also automatically fining us. But data but sometimes even very innocent data can become very interesting, like this visualization of running patterns that I think a year ago caused quite some controversy when some new papers figured out that they were quite good at predicting in Afghanistan where the military bases of the US Army are located. So this is where we're standing these days. We can collect all kinds of data, we can present it, we can process it in all kinds of ways. We can use it for interesting, entertaining things, but also for harmful things. But that brings me back to me, because I think it's interesting to show you what we do. And I will present today 2 cases. But just to give you a little bit better idea of what we do is, as I said, we connect people to data and technology. Other people say, guys, you just do data visualization, because in every project of you can find data. And that's basically also what we do. And one of the projects we did was for the city of Dubai. And the city of Dubai approached us. Their department of that is in charge of all the real estate development in Dubai. And they asked us, like, we want to create a new platform by which we can inform people better about what's all being constructed in Dubai, so that developers are better informed about how well the construction projects are doing, but also to give citizens a better idea of what's going on. Because especially the construction projects in Dubai are causing a lot of trouble due to the huge amount of construction projects that are currently under construction, and the dust and traffic jams they cause. So to show you the results is that we've created a platform that can work on your cell phone, but also on television screens and other devices. That is, the app simply shows you how far a construction project is, how far it's already completed. But developers are also have the ability to, pardon me, I definitely also should have followed the ritual of the previous speakers, sorry. But they can, developers can also send out drones, but we're at this moment also working with Volkswagen Innovation to see how we can equip new self-driving cars with an interactive screen by which people that drive through Dubai can see the future skyline of Dubai and how it will look like. So this is a little bit what are we working on and might be happening in the near future. And that, from that point, I think it's also, I would like to pitch you what will be the requirements for an information designer in the near future. But first, let me take a sip of water. That's a little bit more comfortable. So, as I already said, interfaces are changing. We can now find information everywhere on all kinds of screens. But how we interact with that information will also soon change. We are now already able to interact with information with voice interfaces, with AR, VR, but soon there are already some quite interesting examples about how you can interact with information using your brain activity. This will lead to all kinds of new processes and new ways of working, new best practices that we will need. That will have a huge influence on how we will design stuff. But the question is, will we still design stuff? Because AI and machine learning will have a huge impact on the way we will experience creativity. And therefore, I will show you a brief example created by the creators of AutoCAD, which is software to design products with, 3D products. And they've now came up with this new tool where you simply input the requirements of your construction, and then it will automatically generate 1,000 variations of that. And based on those variations, you can pick the best suiting solution for your final product, where it will use the least amount of raw material. So to minimize the production cost and minimize the effect on the environment. And then automatically you can just say, okay, I need that frame, and use it in your final product. That's not anymore about how it will look, but it's much more about defining the rules which will lead to a final result. But with the help of this AI and machine learning kind of tools, I think everybody will become a designer. We already can nowadays create a website in a few minutes with the help of Wix and all kinds of other website generators. But there you still have to input your content yourself. Well, I will briefly show you this example that was proposed a few years ago. It's called thegrid.io. That said, like, just provide us all the information and we will automatically generate a well-fitting, suiting website for you. And we will even do it in such a way that we will automatically optimize it for every user that will visit this website and redesign the website continuously so that we can provide the information in the best possible way. As said, this was proposed a few years ago. Unfortunately, this whole startup roughly went bankrupt because the idea was a little bit too far-fetched and eventually it didn't really work. But I might imagine in, say, 10 years, this will work like this. But besides that, I think more and more systems will be connected, where it's not about anymore designing just one instant of a design for a piece of information, but whereas thinking about, okay, how will this piece of information flow through all the systems and how does it need to look then? I will just, again, give you a short example. This is done for Eneco. This is the tone, just to, does anyone here has a tone at home? That's a pity, then I can't hear any experiences from the real users. But what the tone does is provide you with a thermostat that will continuously inform you about how well the temperature in your home is doing, but also your solar panels, etc. But these days you can connect the tone to all kinds of devices, like your Hue light bubbles, but it will also influence the information that's put into your tone, will influence how eventually your invoice will look like. So you can, it will be connected to your Hue, it will be connected to your, or it will have an influence on your invoices. And I think we as designers need to start thinking about, okay, but how does the information and the way we interact with the information will work in all those systems? Will the overview of my invoices that I can find in the tone look completely different than what I get via the mail or as an email in my mailbox? Or will it look continuously similar? I think this will pivot the way we will think about designing information. Last thing is that I do think we need to regulate all the possibilities we are now that are now presented in front of us. There are more and more companies that know how to persuade us to use our phones more and more, and know how to make sure that they create addictive interface designers with the use of gamifications that keeps us scrolling through the night, basically. One interesting remark about that is that Asen Raskin, the inventor of the endless scroll that keeps us scrolling and scrolling, already said it's as if they are taking behavioral cocaine and just sprinkle it all over, back and back. And he already predicted this a few years ago, that all these persuasive design techniques that a lot of corporations are using these days are very addictive, and we should be protected for this. And what I think that's also an interesting opportunity for us now, especially I saw there were a lot of designers here, because I believe it's up to us as designers to think about how we want to interact with this and propose solutions, how we can have a well thought of relationship with all those interfaces, with all those information that's presented to us. And therefore, I will show you a last case what we did. Because we were intrigued about how we are these days informed about what's happening with our data, and especially in relationship to our own privacy. Because what we noticed is that these days we get more and more of these so-called cookie notifications. Just to do a short check, who reads the cookie notifications and really the terms that you agree to? May I see hands? One, thank you. Thank you. At least two, okay. So barely anyone reads it because we're all busy and we need to get back to that social media app to keep our addiction alive. Oh, pardon me. Oh, you always turn it on, luckily enough. But I think the majority here simply agrees. Or am I completely wrong? Just please let me. Oh, okay. So I'm not completely right. So. But nonetheless, we thought, okay, we as designers could think about perhaps a better solution to be informed about what those cookie notifications are trying to tell us. Besides that, we notice another problem is that we are not only these days tracked in the online environment, but also in the physical space. We are more and more tracked about what we are doing. Because, like I said, cities are becoming smarter and smarter. There are more and more sensors equipped in the everyday public space that we every day use. And we thought about, okay, but it's a little bit weird that online we have to click all these notifications, while offline in the physical world we have no way to to give a so-called informed consent. But are also not informed about what's happening with the data that's being collected with all kinds of devices. So we thought about a way to perhaps simplify this a bit. And eventually came with a system where we would rate services and products consisting out of a question list of 15 questions that would eventually lead to a quite simple label, where you can score an A, which is really good, where you're very well protected, to an F. And you will see the more the thing becomes empty means the more questions are answered negatively. Because the 1/3 stripes represent the question of the answer to a question and whether or not that question was answered positively or negatively for this product or service. To show you how this then could work, we have made a small video. Is that like in the morning you're scrolling on the newspaper and that's informing you on the bottom that is doing well. Then you're asking your Google Home, that's obviously continuously listening to what you're doing, that has an E label. And then you bring your garbage to the trash can where you have to scan your citizen card. And there you see again this a label that will inform you, okay, some data is collected, I don't know exactly how. But also with this security camera is even informing you what's happening with the data that this security cam is collecting. So I hope that these kind of solutions is for us just a way to propose a solution to deal with this more and more data-fied society, and how we can create a more simplified world in which we hope that this solution eventually will be empowered by perhaps governmental institutions that say this is mandatory, or eventually even commercial organizations that say, like, okay, let's just use this to have a more clear way of informing our users in what's happening with their data. So, yeah, that's basically what I wanted to tell you, but I have one more thing, and it's just, I already announced it. This is just a part of my commercial advertisements I have to give, because we're not only are proposing these kinds of privacy labels that I just show you, but we're also thinking about ways to better inform people about what's going on with this more and more data-fied society. And therefore, I would like to use a few seconds of your time, because from Friday to, and then from the entire month of October and November, we will present in Utrecht Cirque du Data. And that's something we do together with the Cultural City Lab Raam. And it's not 1 hour away from here. It's just 40 minutes. So come to us. No. First visit Dennis at Graphic Matters. And then afterwards come by Raam in Mijksenaar. What we have thought of is that we want to inform citizens in a better way about what's going on with this whole datafication. And that's more about what's currently going on. So not the presentation I just showed you where we showed the future, but especially what's currently going on. And because it's quite a lot, we eventually thought about, okay, let's create really a show that informs people about all the aspects where our society is influenced by data and how that is affecting especially the use of our public space. And on the 1st, the 2nd and 3rd of November, I would kindly all like to invite you to come over to Mijksenaar, where then the real circus tent will be, where we'll have a 40-minute show where we will make sure that we gather all the possible data from you so that we can use it. No, but where we will better inform you about everything that's going on. And hopefully can all together have a more informed discussion about how our datafied society should look like. And with that, I thank you very much.
And sadly, we do not have any time for questions for Gert, but tap him on the shoulder at the end of tonight and also maybe in the circus tent, of course, because he will be there. Our next guest, who I'm glad to introduce to you, is Suze Swarte. She is a graphic designer. We will talk tonight about the origin of her fascination for data. And she will share a short version of her approach using data. So a warm welcome applause for Suze.
Okay, let's go. This presentation has 99 slides. In 12.5 minutes, so that's around 7.5 seconds per slide. So luckily we have 3 screens. So let's start. Oh. Moet ik op het gehoor? Hey, start. My name is Suze Swarte, and today I want to talk about how I discovered I'm a data-minded designer and how I use this way of thinking in my storytelling. I graduated on the Utrecht University of Arts as a graphic designer, and after I was an intern at Tonic, and after I started Studio Suze Swarte. Here you see a few works from the beginning period of my studio, from photo books until identities. There you see a visual archive, book covers, exhibition, and magazines. And so it became 2016, and I started the master design. And my self-chosen subject for the master was work with collections and archives. And so at the first lesson, I showed one of my favorite works, the kopformules. I collected around 300 newspaper headlines from right-wing Dutch newspaper, De Telegraaf. And I arranged them, and I discovered several formulas and style characteristics. Here you see alliteratie, alliteration. Klagende koper krijgt klappen. Het zijn allemaal echte telegraafkoppen. Here you see a victim offender formula. Drankrijder, dood, ijzersterke vader. En zeker bijvoeglijk naamwoord is een belangrijk element. En als laatste zie je heel het landformule. Which better is called the national formula. Nederland in de ban van Supercell. And so by adding all formulas and style characteristics, I came up with the ultimate Telegraaf headline. Heel Nederland staat achter christelijke ontroostbare Bazin Beb. Daar heb je die alliteratie weer, die keer op keer in rap tempo misbruikt wordt door driftige Poolse stucadoor Jarek. And so I told my teachers I love to work with collections. I love to organize them by hand and search for patterns. And they asked me, isn't it data visualization? And I doubted it because when I looked on Google for data visualization, it looked quite different. But I said, okay, let's try. I will talk to some experts. And I asked them, is this data visualization? And what is data visualization? Can you tell me more about it? After my first 3 interviews, I had 1,000 words on paper, and I asked myself, how can I show the insights of the interviews to my teachers? So I get all the jargon out of it in yellow dots, and when I categorized all text, I can suddenly make graphs of it. And so after 3 interviews, I had a lot of new data visualization jargon, and those were the basis for my whole research study, because when I Googled this jargon, I get everything I want to read about. And here you see the interviews after an interview with Jordi Dam, Ruiter Jansen and Rogier Klomp. And I could compare the graphs and see in which part of data visualization I was most interested. So I asked the data visualizators, is this data visualization? Yes, they all said to me, but it's more analog. You approach everything as data and you think data. Okay. So the new subject for my master research was data visualization. So I did research into data visualization with data visualization as a research method. So the collection became the data set, organized stayed the same, and searching for patterns were pattern recognition, my new jargon. And so a few weeks after this change of subject, I came into my old room at my parents' house, and my fascination for data visualization was confirmed by children drawings. So here you see a diary, a travel diary with a route on a map, a bar chart. My diary in plus and minus points. It's more easy to see if it was a nice time or not. And a financial overview day by day. Here you see a network of my friends in an old diary, the score of a game shuffleboard with quotes, and those quotes are really important because I can remember the evening. And at the right, you can see, maybe you can call it an analog interactive infographic, because I asked my parents and sister to fill in the matrix so they get the ideal doll. And here you see everything I would love to eat at one day. My family tree, in which I thought the cat was mine, but it wasn't. And my mother came out of my grandmother, and my mother came once again out of my grandmother, but okay. And my daily schedule as an 8-year-old. So at that time I was thinking, how wide is the landscape of data visualization? So I collected all kinds of data visualizators and organized them in a mapping and set a dot on it to give myself position in the landscape. So here you see a few of those mappings. In numerical data, I will position myself high. I can't work with big data, but more small amounts of data or with the help of a statistician. And I make more autonomous work. In fact, when it comes to textual or image data, I'm way more flexible with bigger amounts of data. It feels way more natural. And so after making these mappings, now I know when I tell stories, I prefer to work from different data sets or collection to get layered data stories. The story can be read in multiple ways when I create a wickerwork of image, text, and data. And so I came back at my parents' house, and I looked at it with data eyes. So let's see, on the left, yes, you see all plates arranged by color. In the living room, you see the archive bookshelves and a cabinet with beads and all kind of stuff arranged. And on top, that's me. And so I came to a conclusion, how I was composed as a designer. 50% my mother, the data. Here you see brushes. All brushes are labeled with a year and location of purchase. Beads arranged by colored. And a collection of moving pictures. Also yarn arranged by colored. And here you see all kind of brooches arranged on pieces of fabric. You see brooches of bones, hearts, glitter, comic figures, etc. Scarves, red scarves, dotted scarves, with stripes or floral or figures. And so after the conclusion, my mother would be the data, I came to another conclusion. The other 50% would be my father and sisters, because they are real storytellers. So my father always made me booklets. And he asked me, please, Suze, come up with a story. So I was always thinking about stories to tell my father. And he would make booklets of it for me. My sister copied entire Disney movies into her drawing books. She's got lots of them. And little by little, she changed the story into her own story, and she now has become a screenwriter. So this all came together in my thesis, Stories with Data. The yellow dots are in there. That's my new jargon. And now I have a more data-minded design practice. I ask my clients for data, and they will give me way more input because they think, oh, I have to give the raw material. We look for arrangements and patterns, and we discover new stories. So it became more intensive collaborations. So here are a few new works. The National Week Without Meat, based on the savings in 1 week without meat. The total savings, based on the number of participants, were shown on the website and in the pop-up store. Here you see visual indexes. I love to work with visual indexes or textual indexes in the end of a book. And in the middle you see an infographic made for the BNO about the results of the Dutch sector, the Dutch design sector in 2018. I always calculate how my earnings relate to the average, how many hours I have worked, and what I earned per hour. And so I also designed a fill-in sheet for all designers to calculate this themselves. Here you see a workshop I did at the Willem de Koning and the HVA. And it is a workshop about how many stories you can tell from one data set. So they got one data set and I asked them, okay, get 100 stories out of one data set. And in 30 minutes they did. They are hanging on the wall as newspaper headlines. Books, this is a book for the Toneelschuur, a theater in Haarlem. And next to stories about the theater, I ask for all employees, all theater plays who were played in the theater, and an extra chapter behind scenes. I give lectures about what is data and where can you find data and what I see as data. And last but not least, here's a project I did together with photographer Marijn Kuipers. We arranged a lot of photos from him and his father, who passed away when he was very young, in various chapters. Comparisons, documents, and a timeline. And when you read the timeline, you will see Marijn's transition from a girl who became a man and looks a lot like his father. And Marijn has survived his father in age at this moment and just became a father himself. That's it. End.
Thank you so much, Suze. We have time for one or maybe two questions. If there's one burning in your mind? No? All right. Sure? No? Okay. If you do have a question, but you don't feel like publicly questioning it, then you will be here exactly after tonight. Thank you so much, Suze. Yes, applause. And I think our last speaker of tonight will kind of maybe deepen the collection fetishist that Suze is even more, because we are going to listen to Paul Mijksenaar on his collection of manuals. Paul is a well-known data visualization designer, and he will guide us through his collection of manuals that is currently in the care of Allard Pierson, the university here in Amsterdam. So go and check that out. Give him a warm applause. Paul Mijksenaar.
The clicker? But there's only one good one. Okay. And where to click? Green. Green. Okay. Okay. Water? Well, I do that later. Yes, can you do it for me? Oh, this work. Okay, let's start with the first slide. I have to do it myself. Okay. Gebruiksaanwijzingen. I collected them for forever, I think. And I always say I don't collect them, but I never throw any user manual away. So the most of my collection are of products I own or I owned once. And later friends and relations gave them to me. Like about 700 safety cards from airplanes. I never flew so much. So they were donated to me when people heard that I am collecting them. And but why should a normal human being collect user instructions? Not art. It is nothing actually. It's something what nobody reads. It's something what everybody throws away. But I am extremely interested because they have very strong visual, because that's their only mean to be visual, that you get the idea immediately. They often with an alienated, that is vervreemdend, heb ik gisteren gevonden. And dramatic impact. Without an, they are not meant to act like that, but they have that effect on me at least. And the extreme focus on functionality, of course, but that's the only way, the reason to be. And out of respect of the anonymous makers. So it's a visual show mostly. There's not much theory behind it. So let's enjoy. And it's today fantastic because what I do, especially for today, I enlarged details and then it works fantastically. So it's also manipulation images. So in fact, it's small images. I will show more. So I have no explanation. It's from the Husqvarna sewing machine. Just one of the 40 pages. But I like this too. It's like an adventure. It's like a machine who's doing something with buttons. And it starts for me to life. From IKEA. And I have no idea what it's. Of course, you have an idea, but it is a fantastic still life with hands of something with action, and the thickness and the lines are perfectly done. For me, it's a piece of art, especially if you isolate it from its context of 20, 30 pages of how to install a sink. And then, of course, you have very complex user manuals, but you have to arrange yourself. I think this is, I have no idea, a shower, I think. Yeah, a shower. Can you imagine that someone really could manage to build this shower cabin all himself just by this little paper? But it's ingenious set. It's well, the layout is well done. The color is used too, so but only for the functional reason. But when you isolate it from its context and forgot the hard labor to make it, it's just enjoying a visual image. Or this. Now we have. I don't even have to. I have no idea what it means. It has, of course, with if you have a fire inside, you have a wet towel and put your head outside, and maybe you survive it. And it's a desperate. Some manuals are desperate. They try to show you how you survive, and you know already you won't survive. Or just a package of the famous Durex glasses. It's just from a little box. And what is so nice of it, the real image is like this. And now it's here in Pakkense Zwijgen. It's really enjoyed. It's maybe 1,000 times enlarged. So it's the opposite way. I took a detail and I enlarged it 1,000, 2,000. I've now calculated it. I do it next. This is. Why do you buy a Meccano toolbox for children to buy this stupid chair for my grandfather, maybe? And why should you build one from Meccano? But it's just an idea. So the private collection, it grew. It's about, at the end, it was about 60,000 pieces. And I gave it to the as a study collection to the Delft University, where I teach at that time. Then it was registered, I don't know if it's the right name, by the NAGO, where I was a member of it, but that has nothing to do with it. So we got a fund, and there's some people who really described every piece. And then it became part of the bijzondere collections of the University of Amsterdam. And now it's Allard Pierson Museum. I never know how I can explain what Allard Pierson Museum, University, and the bijzondere collecties. So I call them always all three together. But so it's now you can you can visit it, but mostly for study purposes. And it's all print, of course, you can understand. And we have some old examples. I bought them on collection, on markets, etc. Not too much. But this is an instrument panel from a car. Can you imagine that a car once was so simple? And this is from Lucas. It's a British manufacturer of instrument panels for a car. I couldn't find which car it was. It must be the 1920 or something. And it's amazing simple. And of course you recognize the elements because they're analog meters or so. But it's a wonderful, nice, so simple. That is, and it is a ghost image, so it shows you the interior of a complicated machine, like a sewing machine, and how it works inside. It is always fascinating. We call it a ghost image, and it's as old as user instructions, and it's always fascinating that you can see inside whatever machine. This is my Gert Arns, Autonora, it was mentioned in the beginning, and from Isotype. And it's an amazingly well-designed user instruction for a telephone. Take a little rest, and especially where the split is. So you start at top, and you work yourself down, and then halfway there's a split. See why that split is. Well, so you have a connection at the left. Then you push the button, and then the connection is activated by the telephone company, and you can talk. If there no connection, someone is not at home. That's on the right. It should be red, but here it's almost black, but it's red. So there's no answer, and you hang up. Very simple and very nice. And instructions for cars, always interesting. And this is where the time of airbrush came. It's not a photo. The photo was original photo, but they airbrushed it to highlight the details and to remove all the disturbing elements which every photo has. So it's concentrated on the details which really are interesting for you to study. You're interesting, and then of course you have always some like pictures. Read the manual, but I don't think you should read the manual while driving. There's another car. They're all nice, and especially that airbrush technique. Of course, you can do it now by Illustrator, but in that time it was airbrushed. And this is a Chinese manual for big cars, for big trucks, and for the people in China, in remote areas. they have to repair their cars themselves. There were no garages. So this is what we call a location map. So you see a frame, the chassis, and then you can see where all the parts are located. This is the Philips 2000 video recorder. And it's like a narrative. It tells you the story step by step. It's like a little movie, but then on print. And this is just 2 pages. I think there are 4 pages. And cause and effect is always a nice series. So what happens if you don't? If you don't use your safety belts, then this will happen. That's always very dramatic, of course. And it's on purpose that it's dramatic. And it's always a very interesting category. So like this. I have no idea what it is, but obviously it slaps out and it hits your face. I have no idea what it means. And it's very silly illustrated, but also because it's done ugly, so to say. It's not fantastic illustrated, but just because of that, it makes impression. It's naive. It's not well done, but it has a strong impact, at least to me. Totally redundant instructions from the HEMA, and never use a fork when the plug is on, and don't wash your toaster while the power is on in the sink. This is very dramatic from a famous climber. How do you call it? People for the people who were climbing, not for in the Alps or something, but especially for professional climbers who repair a roof or something. And they're very dramatic. What happens to show you what happens if you do it wrong, the wrong rope, the wrong knot, or whatever. And so it's really dramatic. But that's on purpose, I guess. And many years ago, every household in Holland, they got this envelope by the government, and it tells you what to do with a nuclear attack. And these are my beauties. Look, that's what you have to store to survive a nuclear war. Can you understand? So if you have a hammer and a bucket and a broodmandje, then you will survive. This is also nice, all together, cozy under the trap. And this is the best. Look at all the turmoil of the papers are at his safe under his desk. And I found in Kiev, when I was on a congress about symbols, I found a Russian equivalent here. It's about 50 pages A3. It's amazing. Of course, we have no time to study it, but it is very dramatic. The colors are really scaring, the brown and the green. And of course, it is a nuclear war. And so all kind of what you should do, and hopefully what will happen with you. So it's an amazing series of the hell, so to say. And safety cards, I mentioned this, and this is an endless joy of inspiration, because there are only a limited amount of aircraft, Boeing, Airbus, not that much, and they provide a safety instruction when you buy an aircraft. But all airlines, they make their own safety instructions. They all based on the same procedure, of course. So, but for some reason they find it nice to have their own safety card. And if you look to the details, it's really amazing. For example, someone did it by photograph, but photos have too much information. A photo for instruction is not, you cannot use it because you are distracted by all the details which you see on a photo automatically. You are distracted by all kind of details who are not interested for your safety action. And if you leave, so if you look to the bottom row, and the next one should leave it. No, it doesn't work. But focus to the low side. So if you look to all those four plates, all people bending somewhere, it looks like a modern play or something by Ivo Hover or something. And it's silly that all these people are in this chair. If you see them isolated, it's a very funny story. Well, it doesn't work. And this very nice, the man with a nice coiffure. And why does he pull out the window and pulls and throw it away through the window? And it's a normal procedure, if you ever have noticed it. It's an emergency window and you have to throw it away. But can you imagine that you're sitting on an aircraft and then you take out the door and you throw it out? And that's an amazing effect if you isolate it from the rest. And this is one of my favorite. I isolate it, of course. It's just a small detail of what to disembark when your aircraft is in the water. And this is like they're sitting in a conference about, and they have their laptops in front of them. So, and they're talking. They have a charming discussion while they are almost drowning. And this is the most touching what I ever have. And then even the aircraft becomes friendly. Or you can think it's a shark maybe, but it's a family reunion. So children in the middle. And you have a nice time. And this is kind of Me Too thing, I think. Don't hit women when they are escaping aircraft. That's the only... and this I never understood. I don't show it to... Maybe you will understand, some of you, but I studied it for a long time, but I gave up what it means. No idea. And this is always nice. Younger people help elderly people first, and especially illustrators. They have different techniques. Though it's a strip like a graphic novel, and some airbrush also illustrated with soft edges. And this is nice. It's, I think, from a German airline. They think, oh, let's make it funny, then it gets more attention. What is maybe a reason? Maybe it's true, because most of them are boring. Nobody pays attention on this card, but this is interesting to see. And this is 50 years before, and it's not like a woman who was tried to finish the fire, but it's more like covering it nicely. Burn soft, my little stove, and it looks like that. It has a kind of tenderness in it, what I like. This is IKEA, and I like also the drawings where you have two people in action. And IKEA has some good ones, for example, and this is from IBM. And it reminds me on the graflegging, that's the... And once you see this, and there are many examples, of course, that you need 4 people to have an IBM computer, but it looks exactly the same. You never forget that image anymore. And this is nice too. It's an action, so it's called morphologisch. So it is a tool, an element, instrument, what behaves as a human being. That's a whole category. Very nice. And there is someone who tries to make funny to see how works a toaster. Have a little moment to see, especially the jumping mechanism to get it out. Simple and nice, and it's on a tea bag. It's like this. It is only maybe 3 centimeters wide, and it's so nice when you see it large and so simple. 2-3 steps, and then you have your tea. It's more complex when you build a bathroom about the measures. But the funny thing is the calculations. 0 + 1 is I have no. At the end, you understand it, but it takes a while. 2 + 3 is okay. Well, it takes a while. It makes sense, but it's nice. It's very inventive, but it's a strange effect. Read this and don't blame me. It's a textile washing suit. So take care of the symbols or ask your wife because it's her job. And I sometimes have an audience. I showed this once before, and it really was in the audience. But it's not my design. Then I had all these use instructions at home, And then I designed 4 calendars, 52 pages, so weekly calendars. So it's almost a book. And for a famous drukkerij Spruit, who was, let's say, a designer's-friendly printers firm, he made his own calendars, and he asked designers like me to design. I thought I have invented the themes, and my first theme was, of course, gebruiksaanwijzingen. And this was the cover. And here I show you the system I used, because if you show just use instructions on a page on a calendar, it is boring. I think people won't see it. You have to help them to look. Most people cannot look. They see too much. So you have to isolate. You have to cover the parts where are not at the moment are of any interest. So it's isolating, blowing up, and coloring details, what I did, and it's fun to do. So the principle was this. So it's just a small Typex. It must be less than 1 by 1 centimeter, and now you see it so big. In the calendar, it's more red, I have to say. Or this is for a razor. And it's fantastic if you see such a small image. I think it's dramatic. I like to have it on the wall. I think I can silk screen them or I'll have them paint them in China and sell them for in Holland, because they are beautiful. As you show them for how much is it? Well, almost 2 by 2 meters. It's beautiful. So what I did is this is from how to breathe, how to brush your teeth. So I took 2 elements, this one and this one, and I made it like this. And I added the color, the background, and all the other colors, and then it makes me extremely powerful, at least to my point. So here is a Philips razor. So I took this element, and then I enlarged it, and I colored it in, especially because of the fingers and that little shaving rotor. That makes it very nice. And here from milk packaging, we had hundreds of them, and I just put one detail and I enlarged it at the top of the milk packaging, and then it looks interesting. It's a nice typography, but it is nothing meant for to be beauty. Only when you isolate it and you blow it up, then at least I get a kind of aesthetic experience of it. Yes? Yeah? Oh yeah. Yeah. This is also nice from the Paris Metro. This is from a timetable for Lufthansa. I took that one and I enlarged it and I left the X white. So and then it makes an interesting piece of. This is from a China manual for doing all things, not only for washing but also for knitting, etc. So this is the way you iron, and then I made it blue, and I keep the iron with a red wooden handle, and then it wakes, and then it comes to life. And this is from a British manual for train conductors when there's an electric shock. Some people are getting coma because of an electric shock. And then I took this one, and I colored it in like this, and then it becomes amazing, strong element. A zipper, just a patent drawing, I call it in. Or I have to hurry. This is also a nice thing. Floating tissues. You just walk, okay. And then I made an exposition. I want to finish with the last one, the publication. Oh yeah, this book. I made a book of it out of later. It's published in 5 languages. You see them here. And for tonight, I've brought 10 copies which you can buy. There's at the table. You can watch if you like it, and you can buy one. We have only some copies left, and it's the right place to sell some. The Japanese version. And I want to go to the little movie. Oh, IKEA. This is nice. And it has a real evolution, and I gave them. I installed the Mijksenaar Award for Functional Design. We have the 5th prize award next year, And the last before was to IKEA for user instructions. But there's an enormous evolution of their IKEA. If you see them 20 years ago, the first, they look totally different, not so clear. Even in user instruction, they become clearer. They develop themselves to better products. And maybe I should end with this. Oh yeah, I have to finish it. But I will show you what does it mean, this page? Can you have an idea? It's how the manual starts. It took a lot of time to discover the meaning. Look, that's a bomb. Means explosion. So this is an exploded view. And now it looks like Billy. Okay, wonderful done, wonderful done. Okay, I have to stop. Sorry.
Applause.
My beauties were at the end, but not all the time.
The beauties were all throughout your presentation. Thank you so much for this. And we could go on for hours and hours, but then we would be here until maybe next week, probably. Thank you so much, Paul, for this, and also to be our closing speaker. So we went all the way back to history of data visualization. We went to the future. We had some insights from designers here. I want to thank you guys for being here, and of course our guest speakers. We have a few programs selected that are coming up here in Pakhuis. Just checking that, yeah. There you go, that we selected for you. Maybe you want to check them out. And most of our guests are still here, so tap them on the shoulder to have a conversation about tonight. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.